Our planet is full of lost history just waiting to be discovered. Archaeologists are constantly uncovering ancient ruins buried beneath modern cities. Sometimes, though, things are found in places where people least expect them. And it's the stories on how these things came to be that is all the more interesting. The Altai Mountains definitely qualify as being the middle of nowhere. It's a very remote place that serves as the crossroads between the Kazakh steppes, Siberia, and Mongolia. It's not very accessible by road, and not many people live there. It's probably the last place you would expect to find a bunch of spaceship parts, and yet, this area is full of it. This is because the Altai region is directly underneath the flight path of the Baikonur Cosmodrome, which is the largest space launch facility in the world. Scraps and parts of rockets frequently fall down into these remote hills. It's estimated that over 2,500 tons of rocket parts have fallen onto the area since Russia started shooting stuff into space in the 1950s. Back in the Soviet Union, they would actually try to recover some of the debris. They didn't want any of their space secrets getting out after all. But after the Soviet Empire collapsed, they haven't cared as much. They mostly just leave everything there to rust. Giant pieces of metal falling from the sky isn't always convenient for the few people who do live in this area. Residents are given 24 hours notice before launches so that they can relocate. But there have been some incidents in the past. In 2008, some debris landed inside of a village and almost crushed a house. In 2011, an unmanned rocket malfunctioned and crashed into the Altai Mountains and caused a huge explosion that broke people's windows over 60 miles away. Some locals claim that it's really not all that bad. They've taken it upon themselves to cut the parts up and sell them for scrap, meaning that for some people, it's kind of like it's actually raining money. In the forest of Visoka Valley in Bosnia, there is a rock that has generated a lot of controversy. That's because it's not just an ordinary rock. It's a giant rock that's so spherical, people think it might be man-made. Some people have said that it's evidence that there was an unknown civilization in the area over 1,000 years ago. But people on the internet like to say everything is an ancient civilization, or aliens, or whatever. The rock could also be what's known as a concretion. A concretion is a hard, compact object made from the precipitation of mineral cement. Concretions are typically pretty spherical in shape. This does not mean that this Bosnian sphere isn't mysterious, though. Concretions are also fairly mysterious because geologists still don't know exactly how they came to be. These bizarre, lumpy, or spherical rocks come in all sorts of sizes. They aren't all as huge as this one, but generally speaking, all form from the same process. Small mineral particles get stuck together and form a sort of cement between larger particles such as sand or dirt. Concretions are usually much harder than the surrounding rock. This means that eventually, as the softer stuff around them falls off, you're left with the strikingly spherical stone you see here today. Of course, this is just another theory. As of now, we don't exactly have a concrete explanation for the mysterious Bosnian spheres. From 2016 to 2020, this strange monolith was just sitting in the middle of a canyon in Utah. Appropriately named the Utah Monolith, it was a metal pillar that someone placed in a sandstone canyon. It was about 10 feet tall and was comprised of metal sheets that had been riveted into a triangular prism shape. Who put it there? Nobody knows. It was placed there illegally sometime between July and October of 2016 and wasn't discovered for years. It was eventually found by Utah state biologists in November 2020. They happened to be doing a helicopter survey in the area looking for wild bighorn sheep. After they posted about their discovery, people went out and found it for themselves using GPS software. Because who wouldn't want to go see a 10-foot monolith in the middle of the desert? Due to the extensive media coverage, some locals decided to sneak out there and take the monolith home with them. They kept it for about a month before eventually giving it to the Bureau of Land Management. Strangely enough, this became a bit of a trend. After the Utah monolith was discovered, over 200 similar monoliths were put up around the world. Some of them were put up anonymously, just like the original, and others were done in a deliberate effort to pay homage to the Utah one. The creator of the original still has not been discovered. In 1962, this weird white box was found in the woods in New Brunswick, Canada, near the Maine border. It had lenses like a camera, and it had a parachute attached to it. The man who found it, David McPherson, thought it might be some sort of American spy camera. The Canadian military soon took it from him, offering no explanation. He was understandably suspicious about the whole thing. In 2017, declassified CIA documents showed that he had been right. The white box was a spy camera that was part of Project Genetrix. Project Genetrix was the name of an Air Force spying program during the Cold War. The program launched surveillance balloons over China, Eastern Europe, and the Soviet Union so they could take aerial pictures and gather intelligence. The balloons floated around at altitudes of 50 to 100,000 feet. One of them blew off course and crash-landed, only to be found by this Canadian man, who, truth be told, the Air Force probably wasn't really all that interested in spying on. In the Belgian town of Saint-Léger, there is a forest that is full not only of trees, but of cars. The strangest thing of all is that nobody knows for sure how the cars got there. Legend has it that the car graveyard was started by American soldiers who were stationed in the area during World War II. They supposedly bought the cars in Belgium and then hid them in the forest. The plan was to come back for them later because the cost of shipping them back to the States was too high. But the second part of the plan never happened, and so they just got left there to rust. But a lot of the cars aren't from that era, which seems to contradict that theory. But maybe those cars were left by people later who just thought it seemed like a good place to abandon a car. I mean, why not? The place is already full of them. The Crooked Forest is a group of very strangely shaped pine trees near the town of Gryfino in Poland. In Polish, it's called Krzywy Las. The grove of 400 pine trees was planted in the village of Nowe Czarnowo in the 1930s. The trees bend very sharply to the north, right above ground level. Then they straighten out like normal. It's generally thought that whoever planted these trees did something to make them like this on purpose. Some sort of tool or technique was likely applied to make them bend. However, nobody has been able to figure out what that tool might have been or who did it. Some people have speculated that the trees might have been bent on purpose so that they could be used for furniture or boats. Someone might have been trying to grow trees that would just naturally be shaped the way he needed them to be. Other people have said that some sort of snowstorm could have bent the trees like this, freezing them so that they grew in a weird way. Truth be told, we don't really have a solid explanation as to what caused the now infamous Crooked Forest. The world is full of strange mysteries just waiting to be discovered. As time goes on, who knows what else we will find? As always, thanks for watching, and be sure to tune in next time.